Good evening and thank you for joining us. First Nations north of Red Lake received some much needed rain yesterday, but the reprieve has been short-lived as an additional 20 new fires today have brought the total active fire count in the Northwest up to 122. Reinforcements, however, are on the way as 97 firefighters from Mexico departed Thunder Bay today to help combat those blazes. Kurt Black has details.
Fires continue to rage north of Red Lake as 25 milliliters of rain provided just temporary relief for the communities of Poplar Hill and Deer Lake. Fire Information Officer Jonathan Scott says much more assistance from Mother Nature is needed to make a dent on the ever-growing infernos.
It's going to take a lot more rain than this to meaningfully change the fire situation. But this is a start and should offer a short-term reprieve from the high fire behavior conditions.
Firefighters from Mexico have now left Thunder Bay to help assist existing crews who are attempting to turn the tide as the number of fires continue to grow. And more help is likely to come from inside the province.
So as it stands now, those are the resources that have been deployed to Ontario. I think going forward, there should be more resources coming from northeastern Ontario in the near future.
Here in the Thunder Bay area, the fire hazard is now high to extreme. Mayor Bill Morrow met with local municipal leaders and the MNRF about the potential of the fire getting closer to here. He feels preparations are in place, but stresses to the community that they take this matter seriously.
Everybody has positioned themselves as best they can. That's historic. But I think what we want to do is really communicate out to our communities, to the residents in our communities, to please take this situation with the seriousness that the situation demands. I mean, it can change in a heartbeat.
Kurt Black, TBT News.
The Ontario Ministry of Labour is investigating a workplace fatality here in Thunder Bay. It happened Friday at Finway General Contracting's headquarters on Wall Street. An employee sustained major injuries while working on some heavy machinery and died soon after. Ministry officials attended the scene that day, and yesterday, 2 labor inspectors and a mechanical engineer returned to the workplace to look at the circumstances surrounding the death. 2 orders have now been issued to Finway, and the ministry continues to investigate. The Northwestern Health Unit is reporting 2 new COVID cases today. They're both in the Rainy River District and bring the total number of active cases in that part of the region to 3. Here in the Thunder Bay District, the health unit once again reported no new cases today, and the active case count remains at 0. Meanwhile, another 12,000 doses of vaccine were administered in the district last week. That brought the total doses to over 197,000 as of Saturday, and the health unit announced today that they've now surpassed 200,000. According to the health unit's numbers, 79% of the adult population now has at least 1 dose, and 62% have both doses. The Ministry of Health is reporting even higher numbers, saying Thunder Bay District has nearly 86% of adults with 1 shot and over 68% fully vaccinated. Ontario's Science Advisory Table is recommending a very different school year in the fall. They're calling for the return of extracurriculars, loosening masking, distancing, and cohorting rules when risks are low, and school closures only in catastrophic scenarios. The experts say the physical, emotional, and developmental health of children and youth has been deeply impacted by the pandemic and restrictions that were placed on schools. Colin DeMello has more.
With recommendations from Sick Kids now in, the Ford government is facing questions over the back-to-school plan.
Getting our kids back to school should be this government's #1 priority. Where the heck is the plan?
The province's Science Advisory Table says after the longest school disruption in Canada, classrooms in Ontario should reopen in the fall and only close under catastrophic circumstances. The report also calls for the return of extracurricular activities while loosening physical distancing, cohorting, and masking rules in low-risk communities. Some school boards, however, say masks will still be required.
When we get to a point where we're at very, very low risk of COVID in our schools and our communities, maybe we could consider lightening some of these sort of safety measures that we have in place. I don't really take it as, well, now they're saying let's open in September without masks.
The recommendations from the science advisory table are just that, recommendations. The government has said their plan will be unveiled sometime over the next 10 days. Critics say the delay gives boards little time to implement it.
Boards will be scrambling. The government right now, boards are basing their decisions, and they have for the last few months, on directives that are a year old, many months old, and don't necessarily reflect the reality we're in today.
Some trustees say parents need certainty as well.
We would have liked to have back to school guidance much sooner than now. Like if we wanted to make, serious improvements to ventilation, we would have needed that guidance, that funding, before the end of the year, actually. Our parents are confused. They're looking for this guidance from the Ontario government, and it really needs to come immediately.
The education minister said in a statement yesterday the province's back-to-school plan will ensure a more normal in-class learning experience, including reinstating clubs, sports, and extracurricular activities.
Federal Health Minister Patty Hajdu says she can't predict when the United States will begin allowing non-essential travelers from Canada across its land borders. Her comments come one day after the Trudeau government announced that American tourists can begin crossing on August 9th as long as they're fully vaccinated. All travelers will be required to have a pre-departure negative COVID test prior to leaving the U.S. and later on in Canada, which Hajdu says will reduce the risk for new infections. The use of the Arrive Canada app will be mandatory upon entry, which has artificial intelligence to help detect fraudulent documents to combat people who try to get in unvaccinated. Today, local media asked Hajdu whether she's heard rumblings from her American counterparts about when the U.S. will reciprocate and open its borders to Canadians.
We take our decisions based on the advice that we get, and I'm sure that the Americans will make the decisions that are appropriate to their own public health situation. As you know, they have a different public health situation than we do, and so I can't guess at what kinds of decisions that they're making. But certainly, from our perspective, the decision that we've taken to allow fully vaccinated American travelers in is the cautious, prudent approach.
As for non-essential travelers from other countries, they'll be able to travel to Canada without quarantining starting September 7th, as long as they meet certain requirements and are fully vaccinated. Elsewhere, the Great Lakes cruise industry has been given the go-ahead by Ottawa to allow cruise ships to enter Canadian ports beginning November 1st. Because Thunder Bay is a seasonal destination, this summer is already lost. But local tourism officials say there is plenty of time to create a safe, welcoming plan for those cruise ships next year. Alex Flood reports.
As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to improve, travelers can now look forward to having a cruising season in 2022. The brand new Viking cruise ship Octantis headlines a number of vessels scheduled to visit Thunder Bay next summer, with 5,000 visitors expected to bring $3.5 to $5.5 million to the community. Paul Pepe, manager of Tourism Thunder Bay, is thrilled to begin welcoming back cruise ships.
Well, certainly, having the cruise ships, important, having Viking here next year, will, benefit, dozens and dozens of local businesses, restaurants, hotels, ground transportation companies, car rental companies, tour operators, attractions, all will benefit from Viking.
While the wait for the Great Lakes cruises lingers on, Pepe says the reopening of land borders with the United States on August 9th will provide a huge boost to Thunder Bay's tourism sector. Many Americans traveling north can once again look forward to fishing, boating, and other recreational activities around the region, and that's also good news for the city.
In a normal year, American travel to Thunder Bay represents about $63 million in spend and makes up about a third of our tourism economy here in the city. Out in Northwest Ontario, it's about $255 million in annual economic impact to the tourism sector. So having the announcement yesterday that the border is going to be reopening to fully vaccinated American travelers is great news for our industry. We're looking forward to welcoming American visitors back to Thunder Bay and back to Northwest Ontario.
The highly anticipated return of the Great Lakes cruise industry will see its first ship dock from Thunder Bay on May 28th of 2022. It's just another sign of the return to normalcy and a fantastic way to show off the community. Alex Flood, TBT News.
Thunder Bay's waterfront was top of mind during last night's City Council meeting. Council members voted to strike a new waterfront development committee, said no to a proposal for gates at either end of the refurbished pedestrian overpass, and made an in-kind donation to a high-profile event at Marina Park. Ryan Bonazzo has details.
City Council has voted 7-4 to re-establish the Waterfront Development Committee. Red River's Brian McKinnon brought the motion forward, saying he's been contacted by people with ideas to further develop the area who are unsure where to turn.
They don't know whether to talk to engineering or planning or realty.
Administration had recommended a $150,000 annual budget for the committee, but council decided not to approve that until further discussions can be had during the 2022 city budget deliberations. Despite vandalism concerns inside the Marina Park overpass, which is in the process of being repaired, councillors narrowly rejected a motion from Mayor Bill Morrow to install gates on either side to lock it off from the public overnight.
We may be seeing a very large influx of tourists next year related to the cruise ship lines who will be, in all likelihood, many of them using that to access the downtown North Core.
It's a way of protecting the investment.
But others argued locking pedestrian infrastructure doesn't benefit tourists or residents.
What kind of a welcoming is that to go into our waterfront?
I'm going to think to myself, boy, I may not be in a good place right now. And I'm not sure if that's the message you wish to send. It's not a very inclusive message either, I might add.
The motion was defeated 6-5. Organizers of this year's Wake the Giant Music Festival, scheduled for September, will get a $30,000 in-kind donation, which includes the use of a city stage and sound equipment. Rebecca Johnson was the lone objector to the motion put forward by Niebing's Cody Fraser.
Other organizations have had to pay. To me, that's not ethical.
But others say the Wake the Giant movement is too important to decline the ask, as it helps make Thunder Bay more inclusive to Indigenous people and supports recommendations laid out in the 7 Youth Inquest.
The Wake the Giant festival came out of one of the darkest periods I think that we've had in Thunder Bay.
I view this as something that truly unifies the community and signals to everybody that we are safe and welcoming.
Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
Traffic lights are a major source of frustration for many local motorists, but by 2025, drivers on Thunder Bay's busiest streets should experience fewer red light delays. The system that controls Thunder Bay's traffic lights will be overhauled over the next 4 years after council voted last night to earmark money in future budgets. The current system is so old that it uses a dial-up internet connection, and it's no longer supported by the company that created it. The upgrade will also allow traffic signals to be synchronized, so drivers traveling the speed limit along arterial streets will hit one green light and then should arrive at the next one when it's green as well.
This helps with traffic flow and reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Some of the other functionality that would be available would be preemption, having priority vehicles, fire, EMS, police, transit as well, that we would basically prioritize those vehicles going through intersections. So it provides quicker response time for emergencies and allows us to make sure or to help transit maintain their schedules.
The upgrades were first identified as priority in the 2018 Transportation Master Plan. At that time, the work carried a $4 million price tag. It's unclear if that cost has gone up since. Animal welfare officials are looking into a disturbing incident involving a skunk that was purposely drowned in the Kaministiquia River. Westport resident Kristen Prokopets posted these photos on social media and describes the actions of the perpetrator as cruel and disgusting. Her young daughter spotted the trap near the Jackknife Bridge on Sunday. It was underwater, attached to a heavy towel with the dead skunk inside. The pair pulled the trap onto shore and called Animal Services. A city spokesperson says an officer was sent to retrieve the carcass, but the cage was no longer there. Animal Services does not investigate cases of animal cruelty and instead notifies police or the Ontario Animal Protection Call Centre. Well, Thunder Bay residents will soon have some new fast food options as more franchises are in the process of being set up around the city. Thunder Bay's first Popeyes restaurant has been confirmed by the city's Development Services Office. A pair of permit applications have been filed for this building in the Thunder Centre. One of them is for Popeyes, but company officials would not provide any details. The popular U.S. franchise began expanding into Canada in 2018. The other application is for a bar burrito restaurant. The Mexican food franchise is also setting up an outlet in Brentwood Mall on West Arthur Street, and there is an Edo Japan restaurant being set up next door. Those two eateries are expected to open in August. And construction continues as well on a new Burger King restaurant next to County Fair Plaza. No word on when that franchise will be ready to open. And a new instant win lottery game has turned out to be very lucky for a couple of Northwestern Ontario residents. The mother and son duo of Josie and Christopher Masikayash of Osnaburg are enjoying a $250,000 windfall courtesy of the new Instant Hit It Big lottery. The Masikayash say they decided to buy the winning $10 ticket because it is a new lottery, and they say they plan to buy a new truck and make some investments with their winnings. Congratulations to them.
Not bad, not bad whatsoever. I would not be complaining if I got that money in my bank account, that's for sure.